Welcome everyone to this showcase of transformation that the Department of Buildings in Washington, DC have been through. So we're excited that you're attending today. And this event is actually hosted by Leading Cities, and we have Mike Lake with us today. And without further ado, I'd like to throw to Mike to make a short intro, and we'll kick off the session. Thank you, Mike.
No, well, thank you so much, Colin, and welcome to everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. For those I haven't met, my name is Mike Lake, President and CEO of Leading Cities. And to give you some context, Leading Cities is a global nonprofit working with more than 16,000 cities and communities around the world. At our core, we're focused on helping local governments innovate and solve problems, despite the very real roadblocks that often stand in the way. Whether those barriers are procurement or capacity, funding, risk, or simply just knowing where to start, our goal is to help communities move from good ideas to real implementation. And one of the ways we do that is by identifying innovative solutions from around the world, vetting them through programs like our QBE Acela City Resilience Challenge, and helping connect communities with approaches that are already demonstrating real-world results and have been vetted through that process. That's actually how I first came to learn about platformOS. They were selected as one of our top 50 companies in our Acela City program, which gave me the opportunity to meet Colin, who you just met, and later Adam Broadway, the company's founder and CEO, who you've already been hearing from. As we learned more about the work that platformOS has been doing with this Washington, D.C. Department of Buildings, we felt there was a bigger story here worth sharing with our network. Not because it's a technology story, but because it's a story about government modernization, operational improvement, and delivering better services to residents. At Leading Cities, one of our strongest beliefs is that cities learn best from other cities. When we see a community achieve meaningful results, we want to create opportunities for other cities to learn from that experience, understand what worked, what didn't work, and consider how those lessons might apply in their own context. And that's what today is about. So we're fortunate to have with us Maida Colon from the DC Department of Buildings joining us today to share the city's perspective and help answer some questions that might exist. And before I hand things over, I'll mention that if there are other topics that any of you would like us to explore further with conversations just like this, please let us know. Creating these opportunities for peer learning and practical knowledge sharing is one of the ways that Leading Cities strives to serve our network of communities and share best practices amongst them. So with that, Adam, thank you so much for being here, for the incredible work you've done in DC and other places, and I'll turn it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. Very eloquently spoken. And yeah, we really appreciate your participation and leading the way for leading cities around the world and the innovation that you're able to help showcase to other agencies for best practice, for learning. And we hope that today we can share some of that. Thank you, Maida and Monica, for being in the room. Maida and Monica will actually be the people with all of the gray matter that makes the solutions work. They're a powerhouse team. And as I do a bit of an overview on some of the problems, the approaches, and then the solution, both Maida, in answering directly from an agency perspective, will be able to answer questions. Colin Frost will be moderating those questions as they come through. So Colin, please shout if there's something that's relevant that needs to be answered immediately rather than waiting to the end. And also do a time check for us as well, because you know me, when I start talking, it's hard to slow me down sometimes. So please be in charge of the time checking. Without further ado, we'll also like to thank Acela, who is a sponsor of this event. And as some of you may know, Acela is the back end on which Department of Buildings in DC runs. There's a lot of integration work that happens there with permitting, which we'll discuss in a little more detail. But let's move forward and talk about the story of the Department of Buildings, previously known as the Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, which was quite a few years back before the name change. And the then director, Ernest Schrapper, had some thoughts around a possible way forward to help reinvigorate and take a bite-sized chunk out of a problem that existed in the Department of Buildings around specifically inspections. And the term the Airbnb of building inspections became the sort of catchphrase for a marketplace allowing third-party inspectors and inspection agencies to participate in a marketplace to help the Department of Buildings fast track inspections. The issue was that there was a 3 to 4 week delay in those inspections, and there was uncovered capacity issues. They needed to be able to find, book, and pay better. They needed better onboarding, better transparency, and also there was an opportunity for revenue, not just for the city, but for new businesses who became registered, certified third-party inspection agencies. And what we saw very quickly before we get in and actually start working through some demos and Q&A is that the turnaround went from 4 weeks to 2 days. Inspection volume increased by 67%, $6.5 million of additional revenue generated for the city. Now that's in fees for transactions, but this also doesn't account for the tens of millions of dollars in revenue that new agencies and small business owners were able to generate, notwithstanding the incredible impact in faster turnarounds for general contractors and building permit approvals so that buildings or any work being done that required a permit could happen faster. Time is money, right? So rather than waiting for people leaning against a shovel to get an inspection done, those inspection turnaround times enabled those shovels to dig the ground faster, or new electrical takeoffs to take place, and other work that needed to happen through the process of a project. So you can see some of the figures here. Vastly increasing time turnaround on permit inspection wait times from 4 weeks to 2 days. Increase in inspection turnover. It also helped free up the internal Department of Buildings inspection staff, allowing them to be more efficient. So it wasn't doing away with the old, it was enhancing the existing process. What this then led to was additional opportunities. Department of Buildings wanted to know, with Certificate of Occupancy, could that be improved? Which the answer was yes. And we'll go into this in more detail, we'll show you some of the processes that were employed. The faster approvals were linked back to the deep dive in user experience research, understanding the business needs, forgetting the technology. Who cares about technology at the end of the day? Do we understand the problem? Have we created the right workflows? Have we prototyped some user experience design approaches that can be prototyped for faster feedback? The answer is yes, 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 which then leads to a product development which the city owns. It's not the traditional way of I have to license or rent software, which is limited. It's limitless development in this case, so that they can literally build whatever they need for whatever purpose, and they own the GitHub repository for those business processes. So again, Certificate of Occupancy, drastic improvements from 47 days to 7-day turnaround. Process visibility went from none to real time. Communication centralization, full analytics across everything, and some cool AI integration, which augmented with the admin team. There's some exciting things happening there, which again, we'll be able to touch on shortly. Wall check was another, again, improving speed, improving the inspection completion time, improving revenue across the board. And you can see some of the stats here, from weeks in delays to same day, from no visibility to real-time visibility, from a paper-based system to a digital, seamless approach, and full analytics around everything. So there's been some amazing stuff built, and this has developed around a bit of a digital ecosystem for the Department of Buildings. They have numerous applications. The integration is all there, the integration for single sign-on through Octo, the office of the CTO, and using the DC Connect or Connect DC. I always get those mixed around because a bit of dyslexia. But the single sign-on approach, centralizing access to data for analysis by management, being able to help identify holes where people game the system. I won't use the FRAUD word, but where people might be able to game the system and identifying those and shutting them down or creating consequences for gaming the system has been also implemented. So we've seen a lot of consolidation around this approach. And what we'll do very quickly now is get out of the dashboard, out of the presentation and into some practical stuff. So Tertius as a product, wall check, certify. We'll go into certify with its AI later. The documentation, very critical for change management and making sure that the Department of Building staff can manage documentation in a centralized way rather than having 20 different versions of PDFs or Word documents floating around. A great approach to documentation so that every new feature is updated in documentation and made easy for admin staff, the stakeholders and the permit holders, those who are the customers of the use of the system can access up-to-date information. And where it all starts is around a great user experience. And to do that, it all happens here. So this is where I'm going to stop talking for a little bit and let Maida just give it from her perspective, the approach that we use from a design thinking perspective, how the importance of affinity maps and grouping information, defining user roles and the personas of each of the user types that are using the solutions, mapping out the user journeys and being specific about each user persona and what their tasks need to be through the flow. And then, of course, coming up with fantastic designs and prototypes that can be commented on and viewed by all of those who will be using the system before wasting time coding and wasting time developing something that when you deliver, it doesn't fit the need. And so that was a very quick overview, and I don't want to steal any of your thunder, Monica or Maida, but Maida, if you want to jump in and just talk a little about the problem, the approach, the solution, and the outcomes, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Thank you, Adam. So in managing the third-party program here at the Department of Buildings, we encountered, I think, a very common issue across the United States, probably across the world, where things are managed still by email, still, let's say, paper records. We're receiving documents through the mail, post mail still. And then we had to process that. A person would take that information, process it, digitize it, and put it in a digital system in the back end in our land management system. So that presented multiple things. One is time, transparency. People could not see how that was moving through the pipeline, items getting lost, items just falling through the cracks. They might not be lost, but we had to look for them to be able to then process them, going to the wrong team. So it was a big challenge that we had to try to turn this process into something that the public could access. And by the public, I mean the stakeholders, either the property owner, the third-party inspection agency, the Department of Buildings, the contractor, et cetera. So there was a big opportunity to digitize and to improve the process overall. So one of the big challenges with this project was that we were not only trying to digitize the process, but we uncovered opportunities to improve the process, which meant that we were basically inventing things, designing our ideal state. And so the outcome was a very good baseline where we can start having the documentation and tracking the documentation as it goes through the pipeline. All the stakeholders have the required access to the documentation so that if something still gets lost, or not quite lost, but not processed, they could ask questions about it. Hey, why isn't this moving forward? And we could all find the troubleshoot that issue quicker. And that allowed us then insights into, oh, I wish I can do this. So we wanted to keep growing then. We wanted to keep improving processes. And so I think when you get to an outcome, when you want to keep going, that is a successful outcome, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And the cooperation around the different stakeholders internally at DOB as well was enabled that. So having a project manager on both sides of the fence to make sure that all the cats got herded in the right place and time. Difficult to do when you're always busy, but in spite of the daily grind of having to do your job and also think about how to improve the job, there was a phenomenal result. And can you maybe talk to the process, or Monica, talk to the process? What was some of the ways in which you were able to capture the information so that it could be understood? I know I touched on Figma, and I'm leading the witness when I did that. Monica or Maida, who would like to step in and maybe talk about how some of the ways in which you were able to have the aha moments from non-technical business owners to then turn into a solution that led to, well, this worked, let's do more of it.
I'll let you take this one, Monica.
But please just jump in if you have anything important that I miss out. So yes, we work mostly in Figma, or we have been working in Figma since the very beginning of the project, which was in 21. The screens that Adam was sharing was a bit of a time travel, I think, for us, because those were the tools that we had back in 21. And what changed most, I think, since then is the velocity that the new tools give us. So what Adam was sharing, yes, in the very beginning of the project, we did several stakeholder interviews. We talked to DOB, back then DCRA stakeholders, to find out about their goals, their needs. We talked to third-party agency representatives, and we also talked to some of the construction companies in DC to get the full picture of everybody's goals, everybody's needs, to learn about their existing processes, to keep the good things and to improve the not so efficient processes. So that's what Adam was showing here. The affinity maps that we created there, and based on that we defined the personas who use Tertius, and we defined some user journeys. We do the same thing today. It's just much, thanks to the new tools, it's getting much faster. Maida is in direct contact with the agencies, construction companies in DC, so they get regular feedback about about Tertius as a whole. And just to give a quick view, how we worked this year, for example, DOB had Maida's team defined a backlog, and starting from that backlog, we looked at the priority of the items. We defined the high priority, the medium, high, low, medium, low priority items. We went through all of them, found the connections between the different requests, different goals, different needs. And we came up with the goals for this year. What are the topics where we wanted to reach the biggest improvements in Tertius? And just since I was talking about the tools, in 21, this is our Figma board. It is a huge one. In 21, our UX UI designers had to spend much more time on designing every small detail of the screens, delivering the screens to the end users was much slower. Getting feedback was much slower. But today, as everybody, we use AI, and what we can create new ideas, new features, new A/B versions of new features. In a fragment of the time that was needed 5 years ago. And the great thing about this, what I love about this, is that we can take this to the end users, Maida can take this to the agency representatives to get their opinions right away, and we can come up with the best solutions. For example, this is our most recent work that we are working on. We are redesigning a report that was existing, but as Maida said, they always learn about the processes based on experience, and they always change it, making it better, and we are applying those improvements in Tertius right away. Would you like to add something, Maida?
Yeah, I'll add something more to stress it. One of the big outcomes that I saw as the program manager was the interdisciplinary collaboration. It ended up not only being between the department buildings and the development team, but also it enhanced the collaboration between the department building and its stakeholders. So the general population, the third-party agencies, we now have a better process where they collaborate and they say, hey, this is how we want to improve the system. So the system no longer becomes, the ownership is no longer the department buildings, but the third-party agencies can now start saying, I participated in that, I designed that. And that, to me, goes way beyond just the success of any platform or application. It's the fact that now we are talking more and collaborating more.
Awesome. That is brilliant. And I think a lot of organizations could learn from that approach, and not just in the public sector, but private sector as well. These silos and fiefdoms that get created within organizations where it's, the protectionist mindset. This is mine. Don't come in and touch it. I think that creating that collaborative approach that everybody's input can help all boats rise, and the quality of the service, the quality of the outcomes for in this case, the taxpayer, the ratepayer, the permit holder, the permit payer, so that they get the best return on investment for their permit dollar. And that can also improve service levels as well, because a happy constituency and a happy customer means that, well, happy days. I enjoy coming to work. I'm not going to get shouted at by somebody who's saying, why is this system so hard to use? And then internally, cooperation, making everybody's life better. What other, just to think about some of the other ancillary or side things, Maida, that you brought up, that internal teamwork that's improved. What would you think are the top two things that have come out of the project that really have made life easier across the board?
What's made life easier is actually being able to see what we're doing, being able to monitor and track. Before we had a system in place, we didn't have data and metrics. Now we have the ability to start understanding in terms of quantitative data, where are things that we could potentially improve, or where we are, what is the normal working environment in our industry and performing inspections. And it's okay to keep that normal working environment. In fact, that's what we want to do, so that we can start seeing if there's any delays or anything that might be missing. So that being able to monitor and track was, I think, my number one item. Then the second item that I would say that has helped immensely is that by us being able to track the entire workflow of the third-party agencies, particularly on the inspection side of the third-party agencies, we can now have a better ability to enforce compliance, to see that they're following the standards, the regulations, and policies of the District of Columbia. And then if they're not, it allows us to have the evidence to be able to say, hey, look, why aren't you complying? Let's have a conversation, or take it a more serious route if we need to. But now we have that documentation and that visibility to be able to do that.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, you can't measure what you don't track, and then that transparency. I know for me, looking back at some of the outcomes and a case study that was done, which is a little side quest that accidentally happened, was around the chargeback issue, where prior to being able to track and see everything, there was a little way that you could dispute through your bank an inspection payment, and the bank would win. Oh, sorry, the disputer would win because the bank wasn't able to easily get evidence to the contrary from the department. And suddenly I got a free permit because I got my money back and I still have my permit. And now, if that happens, their permit is rescinded. If it gets that far, 97% of those refuted charges on someone's credit card are now automated in getting the bank the proof and evidence that yes, this was a valid payment, and yes, it did relate to this, and here's the sign off by the customer, because we're collecting all of that, and the transparency is there and documented to the nth degree that allows those chargeback situations to be, in most cases, won by the department. And when not, then that triggers a permit being rescinded and they have to go through the process again. So the way that the system can be gamed when streamlined workflows are integrated correctly has so many ripple effects in benefits. So that was a personal yay team moment for me when I saw that come about. What we'll do next is, and Monica is sharing there some cool things around logs and events and inspections and reporting. There's a lot of complexity that's been streamlined in this process. And for those of you listening to the video that you're watching later, or for those live in the webinar now, we'd like to get your questions coming through. So please feel free to ask questions as they come to mind, and Colin will curate that. But what I might do is we'll flick over now, Monica. I'll go back to sharing my screen, and we'll just talk about some of the other final parts that we can cover off and highlight those, because I know that AI is on everybody's lips, and they think that some people think that AI is intelligent, but forget the artificial part there. It's artificial. It's just zeros and ones. And so being able to put that in context is important. So I will just show you something that is in the works for leveraging AI. There's many use cases, but what's important when we talk about AI as a tool, because that's all it is. Doesn't have a soul. It doesn't think. It just regurgitates predicted outcomes in next steps through pattern matching, and it's artificial. The real intelligence is in the people that have programmed the algorithms and the people that are using the output. And it's really good at maths. It's really good at pattern matching, but it's not really good at creativity. And the human will always be creative, whereas the machine will just be zeros and ones forever. That said, how has AI contributed and will it contribute to some of the functionality that will assist in further streamlining and helping management and administrators at DOB? So I'm going to share my screen again so that we can discuss that and go into a quick little demo as well. So Monica touched on AI and the impact that including AI in tools like Figma that we use for doing design has taken things from maybe what would have taken 3 weeks now takes 3 days with some AI augmentation. Great improvement in productivity. Even the ability to create a prototype from a design system that we have defined and very quickly get feedback. Maybe it can go out and say, hey, what do you think of this? And the user feedback comes back immediately. Yes, this, not that. How about this? Again, we go back and iterate, and very quickly we can get to a pretty good, good today is better than perfect never, a pretty good first version that can then be handed off and delivered in a production environment very quickly. So AI has certainly helped with the use of Figma Mate. Other coding agents with platformOS, little plug, sorry, the integration of some of the AI tooling that we have done around a agent supervisor, being able to use Claude or OpenCode or whatever LLM you want to fast track and assist with development. Not replace developers, but certainly help and assist. So a 10x developer suddenly becomes a 100x developer. At the end of the day, proper QA, test coverage, and making sure that it does what it should do with a best practice code approach requires a real developer with experience to know that they're not getting a bunch of spaghetti code or security holes and other things. So it is important that the expert is involved in that process. So developing is there. One of the things that we've done with Certify, if I can quickly share that, and I think I'm sharing, yes, is some of the future functionality that the team have worked on to assist administration around certain tasks. For example, with the Certificate of Occupancy, when reviewing details and a lot of documentation coming back that requires a review of all of the various things that have to happen, the applicant validation, building description, permits, all the inspections and final acceptance, all of these things can be quickly summarized and reviewed by an AI agent, which vastly improves the administration task that would otherwise have to read a lot more. Now, that's not to say that you ignore all the content, but through the workflows, other experts have signed off to a degree. But now, being able to use AI to quickly summarize, and anywhere there's discrepancies, it can even go to the next step and create a possible correction request. Again, vetted and reviewed by an administrator who's an expert, a subject matter expert, before it goes back to the permit holder. So these are things that have, again, vastly improved, just like in our process from the development side and the design side, from 3 weeks to 3 days. Imagine a process for review going from 3 days to 3 hours, and the speed at which we can now quickly assist the administrators using these tools. So these are examples of the process by which AI can be augmented, and so many other things. There's just an endless number of use cases where the augmentation of AI can occur. Now, what else can they do is building a specific LLM that is tuned specifically to the jurisdictional requirements of Washington, DC. There are federal, state, and then local laws that need to be adhered to, and there's different building codes, and they change, and who can keep up with them? I don't know how MADA does, but if there's a way to expedite the cognitive acceptance of new things or awareness of it, that's where AI is also able to help and guide somebody going through the permitting process and specifically tuned to that jurisdiction. So there are other things that AI will be assisting in, again, to help the experts, the subject matter experts, and the staff do their job more efficiently. And again, it's just a tool. It's how it's leveraged and implemented that makes all the difference. So again, we go through the Figma design process, interviews with the constituency, with all the stakeholders, get the feedback, and determine whether or not it's even worthwhile doing before it's just built. Build it, they will come, or not. But involve the customer in the process, involve the stakeholders in the process, and have them, as Maida said, when they say, "Hey, that's my little bit of feedback there. That's really helped my job." They will use it. It's not just here's what you get. Here's the cookie cutter solution. It's over to you now to try and make it work. And that's where the shift is happening across development, where we're not bound by a traditional software development lifecycle where it's sort of off the shelf and it is what it is with paint within the lines. Limitless approach to development is where things are at this point, including where it's hosted and how it's hosted, and being able to own the code as an agency. Very, very important. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. Conscious of time. All right, we're on time. I haven't had a shout out yet from Colin, so we must be doing good for time. I'll make sure that we just highlight what the challenge can often be for an agency just in general, and why not just government tech projects stall, but so many large tech projects stall. And it can be anything from using a waterfall approach to development, where we've got a 2-year project, and by the end of the 2 years, we delivered exactly what the scope said, and it's totally irrelevant now. So agile approach, which is really important, being able to deliver something every couple of weeks, and then if the new priorities take over, being able to give time and effort to those priorities without having wasted 2 years of budget and time. So the project management approach, the limitations around coding now, moving away from off the shelf. I don't know how old you all are, but 5.25-inch floppy disks and putting them in there and loading it all up. And then hard drives came along, and now shrink wrap software off the shelf, and suddenly the internet. And now I can rent my software. I can host it in the cloud and I subscribe to it. But then there's limitations around software as a service. How configurable is it for your needs? And is it being done in a way that's efficient, so that by the time you've finished turning it into Frankenstein's bride from its original purpose, it's no longer efficient in the back end, and the database doesn't have the right schema and the right indexes. And so suddenly you get past a certain number of records and everything slows down, and the only solution is throw more computer hardware at it. Those are olden days times, back when I was a boy. These days, you don't have those sorts of limitations, and you can be very flexible in the way you approach development, and importantly, own the code base that you have customized specifically for your business needs. So not getting that vendor lock-in is important. There's lots of good reasons. I won't do a full-on sales pitch because I want to get through to open up to questions. But having stalled innovation because there's just too many other challenges, and we don't have a system in place that we could replace completely. That's where augmentation comes in, which is exactly the approach that Department of Buildings has had. What's something that we can build, that we can fix right now, and augment and plug in over the top of our existing systems. So we still have our single point of truth, and through integration, but we can expand and work with whole new workflows that previously we were limited or not able to do. So we can unstall innovation through that. And it's important to have the processes consolidated as much as possible, so that every touch point, whether it's an IVR system, mobile, desktop, Internet of Things, device integration, can be all consolidated, and consistent user experience, brand experience, customer experience, transparency for admins, transparency for the leaders in your business, in your agency, to be able to have your finger on the pulse in real time across the board and know from a dashboard Is the oil low? Yep. Okay, we need to react to this now. Too many things are often reactionary rather than proactive. And again, when you have systems that are streamlined, you have access to the data so that you can measure it, you can predict, and using predictive analytics, AI, you can get ahead of the problem before it blows up too much. We suggest incremental modernization. I guess that's what I was saying here. A lot of CIOs are looking for ways that they can land on a smaller project and then expand if they need to. Being able to build out a prototype that is visually appealing and useful for the end customer, like what we're doing with Figma Make, and get feedback without needing to necessarily develop immediately. Being able to leverage and reuse workflows and code that can be applied very easily to another business problem. They're all ways that can help to expedite new projects. And then owning the transformation end to end, making sure that the approach is modular, consistent, that you own the code, of course, that you have the ownership of the data, that you can work with your local development teams on a platform that gives them access to the code to be able to use people that are in your community that are experts to build out. And of course, being AI ready, that's an important part of that. So owning your own destiny and having a team that embraces that approach enables you to start with a problem, move fast and affordably, and then be AI ready when the time comes. So we have just under 15 minutes for some questions. So I'll open it up to that. And thank you, Maida and Monica, for stepping us through and discussing those approaches that you've used. And as Monica said, that look down memory lane to how we did things back in the day, which was still very fast, and the even bigger improvements now. Let's get Colin to see if there's any questions that have come up.
Yeah, no, definitely. We have a few that have come in. So the first one is we already have a permitting system. Does Tertius replace it?
Well, Maida could probably talk to that. You have a permitting system, and did
Yeah.
Tertius replace it?
No, it does not. So I don't know how it works in other agencies, but for the District of Columbia, we kind of organize ourselves between permitting, so the beginning of a design project, and getting the drawings set code compliant, and then inspections. I'm on the inspection side, and Tertius, what it did was streamline the inspections piece of it, connected to the permits. So as the permits come in, they pass through the backend land management system, and then we do our day-to-day work. The third party does their day-to-day work in Tertius, and then it goes back to that main repository, land management system repository. So it ties back directly to those permits.
Great, thank you for that. And for those that are wondering, yes, you can have both. So it could replace in this case, or it can connect and augment. So there's, in the case of DOB, it was plugging into an existing system, or it could be standalone.
Great, thank you, Maida. Another question that came through is how do you ensure the quality and consistency of third-party inspections?
I think that's the most pressing question that I have to manage day to day. How do you do oversight and compliance of anybody, third-party agency, of your team? So managing the internal team and internal staff and their work, it's very similar. My approach is looking at the big picture and ensuring that everything is getting processed. So being able to have access to those metrics, to the data, to monitor and track, that helps me to then go back and say, okay, where are deviations? Where are the deviations? What can I do to address those specific deviations? And then have conversations with those third-party agencies. And what I've learned is that not always, but most times, success comes from those conversations, and it doesn't have to escalate to something more. It's more, turns out to be educational more than anything.
So in that case, because you have access to the information, you can mentor and assist the agencies, the third-party agencies, to get better, so you can measure against best practice. I think Monica's bringing up a dashboard from the UAT environment just to highlight some of the graphs and reports that you have access to. And I guess also the ratings and reviews from the end customer can also highlight when maybe an inspection was consistently from one either inspector or agency isn't quite hitting the 4.6 average that might be set as a high bar. So there's those numerous ways. But as you said, Maida, access to the data gives you the ability to do whatever you need to and to find
Right.
out where the bottlenecks are.
Right. And it's always there's always we can do better. And that's what I love of the process improvement itself. We find things as we go through where we see, oh, we are not doing enough oversight here, or we're not doing enough enforcement over there. And so we can start finding those places and being much more detailed than what we used to be 5 years ago, before 5 years ago.
Brilliant.
Great. Thanks, Maida. This is another question. Adam, you talked about off-the-shelf approach. Can you expand on that? How scalable is it?
Sorry, I was just reading another question. I was distracted. Sorry, Colin. What was that question again? I saw
Yeah. The question is basically the question is there's been intimation of off-the-shelf being limiting. How does that compare to what we do with Tertius and the rest of the solutions?
Right. Okay. And this is where the evolution from shrink wrap software to hosted software as a service to platform as a service to internal development platforms has gone. And having a platform as a service or internal or a managed internal development platform, which is our approach to things, provides limitless opportunities for the development cycle. So there's no kind of restrictions. There's reuse of code easily. You own the code. The agency owns the code, so they're not sort of stuck needing to beg for an enhancement. They can either A, do it themselves if they've got internal staff, use a local developer to work with it, and use any developer really that understands the basics of good best practice model view control approach to developing things and isn't a vibe coder. Nothing against vibe coders, but vibe coding is great for prototypes, not great for enterprise. Give it a couple of years and maybe that will change. But yeah, you want to use a platform or use an approach that doesn't lock you into something that you ultimately don't own, including your infrastructure provider. Being able to move across infrastructure providers is very important too from a hosting perspective.
Great. Thanks, Adam. One last question. How difficult is it to introduce Tertius into an existing building department? Maybe that's for you, Maida, your experience.
I don't think I'd be good in answering that question because I was the one developing it from scratch. So I had, I can imagine something and then, work with the team to develop it. But in terms of potentially integrating it, I would say if you have a similar program where you have third-party agencies doing inspections in your jurisdiction on behalf of the jurisdiction, the process in the industry are the same, whether they're in DC, in Washington State, California. Regulations could be a little bit different, but the process is the same. So the process, you could pick it up, I would imagine, and then make tweaks to it based on the regulations that you have in your jurisdiction.
Great. Thanks, Maida. Another question's come through. Does DC offer any innovation or pilot programs to explore new technologies? We work closely with NYC's tech labs and would love to explore doing something similar here in DC.
Luke, I've just popped up the generic contact form for DOB, but Maida, are you aware of any innovation programs in DC?
I'm not aware. From my perspective, I work within a department, so that's up to the leadership, the senior leadership in my department. And if senior leadership changes, then those initiatives will vary.
So Luke, definitely one to work to link out to on that website link I've sent you. Hopefully that works for you and it's not a one-time URL. Sometimes that happens, but definitely info.dob.dc.gov/contact should be able to point you in the right direction, or search that web page to see if there's any other innovations. But Michael's leading cities, of course, doing all sorts of innovations and innovation programs. So I think definitely reaching out to Michael would be a great idea.
I agree completely. And I hope folks will do that. We as an organization are here to serve cities primarily. And so anything we can do to support that effort. And as we've all heard today, I mean, the work that's been done between platformOS and this Washington, D.C. is fantastic. And I think it's a great example for others to follow. So I just wanted to jump in once again and thank both Monica and Maida for their contributions to this, because I think it's important not just to hear from leading cities or to hear from platformOS about how their solution is impacting a community, but to hear directly from the community itself and the representatives to demonstrate that. And so your insights and sharing, I think, is what really brings value to this. So I want to thank you both, especially for being here with us today.
Happy to.
That's great. Thank you for that, Michael. In fact, I'm going to share my screen for those watching. To get connected with Michael, definitely recommend that you reach out. And this is your latest and greatest leading cities website, right, Michael?
And that's right.
Excellent. So definitely connect. There's options for government, innovators. So that question came up before. Innovators, click here. Existing agencies, click here and reach out, connect with Michael. He's going to get you on the right path. And for those who are interested in talking to us more on a technical basis, platformos.com will be where you can go to reach out to us directly. And we'd be happy to answer any technical questions and take you through some deeper dive on what we do. So for everybody who's attended and those of you who are now watching, we thank you very much. We're coming up to 50 minutes of great conversation. Thank you again, Maida. It was wonderful to hear from you and Monica. Let me tell you that those two get more done in a conversation behind the scenes than I see in many other teams. They are a dynamic duo, and it's been great to watch the work that they've done. Yeah, so awesome work to you. And of course, the teams that support you both. A lot of people behind the scenes that aren't in the room, but I have to say that from a tip of the spear leadership approach and design thinking approach, out of the box thinking approach, complex systems being reduced to systems that anyone can understand, even me. These two ladies are powerhouses at what they do. So well done. Couldn't have done it without you. Colin, thank you for coordinating everything. Again, Michael, thank you for making this happen with leading cities, and to Excella for sponsoring behind the scenes. Appreciate everybody being here. Again, if you need to reach out, you saw the links there previously, and we will do a follow-up email. Everybody, thanks again. And we will say goodbye at this point.
Thank
Bye,
you, everyone.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you all.